Ridge Racer Unbounded, released in the year 2012, is the 8th or 16th or 21st game in the series, depending on how you count, and is a racing game about, well, mostly about smashing through buildings very cinematically. It is the last non-mobile entry of the franchise, and I am here to say that of all the Ridge Racers, all of them, even Critical Velocity and 64, it is easily and unequivocally the single best Ridge Racer game. And you will now listen to me spend the next 26 minutes laying down my extremely well thought out arguments as I prove this point beyond all just kidding. It's April 1st and I'm having a little fun. Come on now. While there are a few games that could claim the crown, the very best Ridge Racer, without a doubt, is R4 Ridge Racer Type 4. The music, the racing, just the graphic design and user interface, the vibe, your vibe. All of it is so far ahead of the pack, other arcade racers are still trying to catch up to it. But Ridge Racer Unbounded is a curious case. Developed by Bugbear Interactive, a Finnish studio that before this was most well known for the first few excellent flat-out games, Unbounded is the black sheep of the Ridge Racer family. Well, one of the black sheep. I really wanted to like R Racing Evolution. It has a story mode, track racing with a bit more of a simulation angle, and it was released on the GameCube, which are all the hallmarks of a great game. It's a shame the story is shallower than even the little vignettes in Type 4, and the racing itself feels like pushing a defective shopping cart around a dirt track. It's a huge disappointment of a game. And yet it is Unbounded that gets a lot of the flack for killing the franchise. And there are some good reasons why people think this. It's one of the few games in the series developed by an outside studio, it is the last major entry in the franchise, and of course, well, it doesn't look, sound, or feel like anything within the realm of what one would expect from a Ridge Racer. Some combination of colorful graphics, energetic music, arcadey physics which emphasize drifting, tracks which pass through cities, highways, beaches, and mountainscapes, and a gentle but stylish overall vibe informed by street and track racing cultures. These are common characteristics in the series that Unbounded is a complete departure from. And the story of how this game came about is interesting too. Seeing the landscape of arcade racers change in the late 2000s and early 2010s, Namco decided it wouldn't be wise to just release a straight follow-up to Ridge Racer 6-7, and instead somehow got in touch with Bugbear, which at that time was already working on a prototype of what Unbounded would become. Something which took their proven expertise in vehicular destruction and applied the aesthetics of the spectacle racers coming up at the time. Burnout is the standout there, of course, but also taking massive influence from games like Blur and Split Second, maybe with a dash of Motorstorm. So Namco, or Namco Bandai, or Bandai Namco, saw this prototype and said, hey, how would you like to have this be a part of one of the most prestigious arcade racing franchises in history? Bugbear was not a stranger to working with Japanese publishers actually, as they had also done the PSP port of Sega Rally Revo. They also made a story-based racer for the Nokia N-Gage called Glimmerati, but that's best left for another video entirely. The deal made sense on paper. For Namco, it would potentially breathe new life into a franchise they felt was getting stale, and of course for Bugbear the promise was a stack of cash from a well-known publisher and the prestige of making their game part of a legendary franchise, which would surely lead to it becoming a huge hit, right? Although maybe someone should have told them that both the studios behind Blur and Split Second shut down the year those games were released. But in spite of triple quote-unquote killing the franchise, I don't think Ridge Racer Unbounded deserves its reputation. It is not to blame for the death of the franchise. That responsibility lies entirely with some dudes in suits in Japan. Is it a Ridge Racer game? I mean, that's what it says on the box. That's what it's officially called. The owner of the Ridge Racer trademark thinks it's a Ridge Racer game. As the kids would say, it's canon. and almost all Ridge Racers are some kind of departure from what came before. Rage Racer got all desaturated. R4 brought back the color and introduced story and an overload of style. 64 was developed in-house by Nintendo and is a callback to the earlier entries. 5 got rid of the franchise mascot Reiko Nagase. Racing Evolution was a track racing semi-simulation. 6 was an Xbox 360 exclusive, and 7, in spite of being a full numbered release, was basically just Ridge Racer 6 Plus, now for PlayStation 3. So, is Unbounded good as a Ridge Racer game? I will concede that this is debatable, but I'd argue it fits the franchise better than Racing Evolution did, and more crucially, is a much better game overall. Because as a racing game, outside of the burden of the name that it carries, it's fine. The driving doesn't feel great, and I wouldn't say I care much for the aesthetics, the all too typical for the era high contrast look where you can barely see what's in the shadows, or the more aggressive soundtrack featuring the Crystal Method and Skrillex. And yeah, pretty big sin that the drifting in this Ridge Racer game, which is still a Ridge Racer game, kinda sucks, but that destruction is pretty good though. And there's a ton of race types to play around with. I particularly enjoyed this one where you use the Terminator 2 truck to smash as many cop cars as possible. Also, the game has a story, or at least a story setup. The city it takes place in is called Shatter Bay, named after a Captain William Shatter. And there's all these stupid little lore drops in the loading screens about its underground racing scene. Kinda reminds me of the news ticker updates in Ridge Racer 7. It's entirely unnecessary, and I'm a sucker for it every time.
Remember my name, Karashindo. You're one of us now. Drive.
And I know it was a thing in this generation to place text inside the 3D world semi-diegetically, but I still think it's super cool. Overall, it's a perfectly solid racing game, the biggest flaw of which, as far as I'm concerned, is not that it doesn't live up to the expectations set by the title, but that all of its tracks are made with the track builder. Now, having a track builder is an objectively cool thing, but I don't particularly enjoy this implementation of the idea. The tracks consist almost entirely out of long straightaways and 90-degree turns, and since they all use repeating segments, none of them feel designed as racetracks, you know? I think the game would have generally been received better with proper track designs. Speaking of its reception, I make all these videos about older games, and I tend to play them without doing too much research ahead of time so I can get clean impressions. I look up reviews after I play just to get the contemporary context or measure a game's success, potentially along with sales numbers. But I'll be honest, I just can't get myself to care about game reviews. The Wikipedia page intro paragraph of Ridge Racer Unbounded ends the way it ends for so many games. The game received average reviews. But what the fuck even is an average game? I don't mean the old gamer talking point about a 7 out of 10 is equivalent to a 5 out of 10 or whatever. I don't care about that crap. I mean, what is average? What does the word average mean in this context? A 72 out of 100 on Metacritic, a website I didn't vote for, by the way, is considered average. Which means what exactly? That it is like most games? That it is a typical or normal game? Does anything about Ridge Racer Unbounded seem normal to you? Isn't the whole point of the game that it is not like a typical Ridge Racer? I've gone on record saying that I think there's no such thing as a bad game. And I suppose by extension, that means there's no such thing as a good game, or indeed an average or normal game. How many times do I have to tell you people that the words you use affect how you see the world? So this isn't actually a video that isn't about why Ridge Racer Unbounded is the best Ridge Racer. This isn't a video about Ridge Racer Unbounded at all. April Fools! I have things to say. So allow me a few minutes for a loosely scripted rant. I guess my thesis is I am bothered and have always been bothered by how we, all of us, everyone around games, talks about games. This is true for all media in general, but games is what I care about. It's what this channel is about, so it's what this rant will be about. This medium, this art form, is held captive by this industry. Think of all the layoffs that have happened in games. Think of all the scandals you hear about corporate mismanagement, about game companies that have released successful games and then immediately get shuttered. Games journalism and criticism has been absolutely decimated and is currently in the process of being replaced by Gen AI gambling sites and has already mostly been replaced by influencers who care more about sponsorships than they care about the medium itself. And it's made me think, I think about the concept of favorites a lot. Even as a child, you're asked, what is your favorite this? What is your favorite that? I can't tell you what my favorite game is. There's hundreds of candidates of games that I have enjoyed that I would put in a list as like, this is really good. But I struggle picking one or five or definitively saying, this is my favorite thing. This is the game that defines me. But I know it's not like that for everyone. My brain is special, as is yours, but mine is special in my own way. So let me ask you this. Is the highest rated game that you've played your favorite? Is it what you think of when you close your eyes? Is it what you make fan art of? Or what you dream of making an homage to one day? Is it what makes you think about your place in the universe and your relation to other people? If the answer is no, which I think for many of you it is, then what is the purpose of the rating? Is it just to get you to buy the thing? Are games art or an appliance? Should we judge a game the way we judge a fridge? Are you a human being or a consumer? Now extend this to Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, a percentage or aggregate score of a thing that dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of people have put their creative energies into. Or take Steam reviews. How useful are Steam reviews when they so often get brigaded by capital G gamers for the most nonsensical delusions? None of these are trustworthy sources of information. By design, they can't be. And this is why generative AI is useless as a source of truth. These are abstractions based on abstractions based on abstractions. And don't let that fool you into thinking that that means they are neutral. They are biased to the market, to industry. When I was a little boblet reading Electronic Gaming Monthly, I enjoyed reading the reviews because they taught me things about games that I could never play. But I was also taught to see scores as directly representative of a game's value. Metal Gear Solid 2? Good. Very good even. Mortal Kombat Advance? Bad. Very bad. But it always came from this angle of commercial value. Was it worth spending money on? And even back then, and I'm sure even way before that, these reviews always came with accusations of bias, personal bias, from basically low-life readers. This concept of a neutral, unbiased, objective review is something that should only apply to commercial products, like a fridge. And then it turns out the fears of bias were kind of warranted, as the whole Kane and Lynch GameSpot debacle showed. But not from the journalists, from the industry. The same industry that a few years later was happy to tolerate Gamergate harassment campaigns that it turns out were arguably a basis for so much of the political garbage we have to endure on a daily basis today. But as I grew up, I realized I didn't care if a product could provide me value, at least when it came to games and other entertainment. If a triple, quadruple, pentuple A open world game that cost $500 million to make and crunched 1,000 developers and not seeing their families for months at a time gave me 80 hours of decent entertainment, does that make it more valuable than a 20-minute one-person itch.io interactive poem that haunted my dreams for a week? I'm looking for meaning. The value is in meaning. You know, I have this voice in my head sometimes. It looks at something popular that I don't like or I am not into, and it says, well, that means that sucks, and those people who like it are wrong. That's not me. That's not my voice. It's an insecurity. And it's not the hater, you know? There's room for negativity in the world. There's room for criticism, shouting out people who are obviously wrong about any number of things. You know, I'm a bit of a champion for positivity, but I understand it can be toxic in large doses. But I'm talking about a part of me that is susceptible, that can be manipulated by the nefarious, the industry. It's a childish part of me. And I don't mean the playful, fun, childish part. I mean immature, naive, vulnerable to abuse. And I just have to assume that some people have this voice too. And quite a number of them give into it. Who am I talking to right now? Am I talking to you across the screen? Or am I just talking to myself? To be fair, I am the most important person in my life. I'm going to open myself up here a little bit. I struggle with believing that I have anything worth saying. This whole YouTube channel, everything I do when I talk to the internet, it's a continuous attempt to undo a lot of damage that has been done to me in my childhood. I'm doing all of this, including this here right now, which is an attempt to be sincere but required a lot of setup, to exceed my own limits, because I'm compelled to by something inside, something that was always there and is only now getting a voice. And I want to share myself and the things I find interesting. Because let me be clear, the entire concept of industry seems abominable to me. Think of music, one of the most beautiful and effective expressions of the human experience we've ever created. Think of your favorite song, or a song that moves you, what it does to your heart, how it can change your mood, how analyzing the lyrics can give you insights into the minds of others. Now think of the music industry, a disgusting and filthy cesspool, as dirty as any smoke-spewing factory. The same is true for movies, TVs, books, games, every other art form you can think of. Industry is the machine that eats children and spits out a worse product for a higher price every year. And whenever this gets brought up, the counter-argument is, well, without industry, you wouldn't have this, and you wouldn't have that, and you wouldn't have phones, and you wouldn't have cars, and all the things you love wouldn't exist. Tens of thousands of game developers were laid off last year among record profits and game companies being sold off to sovereign wealth funds. Every single day, I am exposed to small developers and game critics I admire struggling to make ends meet. And I'm not doing so hot myself. Patreon.com/alienbob. The entire game industry is on the brink of collapse, and I do mean the very brink, after decades of mismanagement and hollowing out and abuse and private equity and union busting, and now the AI bubble and RAM prices and here I am dreaming of making a little game about my youth on Aruba. I love video games. My first memory is watching my brother play a video game. Video games as a concept, as the thing on the screen where you push a button and a little guy jumps or whatever, have defined my life. I love playing them. I love talking about them. I love following their development. But the people who make them, who write about them, who champion the art form, are treated like garbage by the industry, and also sometimes by you, by hoping for a game to fail, by not calling out harassment, by tolerating the use of Gen AI, or a company that is complicit in goddamn genocide. For what? For the profits of the suits? For the shareholders? Do not be an arm of industry. I dream of a Star Trek type post-scarcity society in which we aren't paying money for anything and games are still ever present. Expand your concept of what games are. They are not products. They are not meant to be scored. There are people out there, plenty, who see games for more than just products, who don't talk about value, but talk about meaning. They do reviews, but not consumer reviews. I don't know about you, but like a big chunk of my life is dedicated to trying, probably not succeeding, but trying my best to refuse to be a consumer. I said it before, the words you use help construct your worldview, but so does what you read or watch or listen to. Just drop product reviews entirely. Start reading Kimimi the Game-Eating She-Monster. Stop watching sponsored streams and watch Aqua Lounge. Introduce yourself to the worlds that exist beyond industry and the market. And don't limit this to games. Make your own website, handwritten in HTML. Unsubscribe from every streaming platform you can. Train yourself to ignore all advertising. Liberate yourself. And now I'm going to need to talk to you about the meaning of life. I know, I didn't expect to get here either. The universe, the whole damn thing, is cold, uncaring. Gravity pulls, electromagnetism radiates. The weak nuclear force does whatever the hell the weak nuclear force does. It does not care about you. But we, as living beings, are a direct result of all these forces playing out long enough. And we have this thing, apparently, called thought. We are not separate from the universe. We are parts of the universe that have awakened and learned to analyze itself. It's a whole bizarre thing. And we experience this coldness, this uncaringness as cruelty. I think if there is any meaning to be had in this life, it is to undo that. To be the universe caring. To be warmth and empathy, compassion, understanding. Part of this video was conceived while I was on vacation in Switzerland. Just like you, I deserve nice things. And I was sitting there on a balcony, overlooking a lake, and beyond it, the Alps, rising into the sky. And it was the most horrifically beautiful thing I've ever seen. But most of my videos are written right here in this room while I'm staring out the window and my view is my neighbor's roof. But I have to be honest. In the end, the vibe is the same because what you're getting is the vibe that exists within me. I can stare at a mountain in awe and experience the same feeling looking at a slab of concrete. The cosmos is beautiful in all directions and dimensions. Most of the games I cover on this channel are unloved, either because they are considered bad, whatever that means, or are so obscure that they don't even get that assessment. And look how much I'm able to get from them. All of those games have a history, have a context, have artistry within. I can look at the beauty of the process of making something which turned out to be a piece of crap. I can find meaning behind their failures. If I can do that with games, so can you. And you can apply this to every other thing of your life. My wish is that all of us would be able to stretch our minds and our hearts over this world And little by little, with every little action you can imagine, every act of kindness, every consideration, every little bit of empathy, undo the cruelty of the cosmos. Industry cannot be a part of that. The machine cannot be a part of that. So maybe Ridge Racer Unbounded can be considered the best Ridge Racer after all. Conceivably, it is somebody's favorite Ridge Racer. Maybe that person is just into what it does more than what the other games in this series do. Maybe that person has become unbounded. Personally, I still wish they'd make a Ridge Racer 8. Like an open world RPG like Racing Lagoon, maybe. Could even make it a throwback to R4 still. Get that nostalgia going. Come on, Bandai Namco. You've got 80 million lying around somewhere, right? You're making Ace Combat 8. And I think, in the end, Ridge Racer Unbounded is the game that Bugbear wanted to make. And somehow they're still around. They survived the great spectacle racer developer apocalypse of the early 2010s. They made Wreckfest a worthy successor to their own Flatout games and have just released its sequel into early access. They got bought out by Embracer though, so who knows how long they'll still last. Hey, if you made it this far, say, "Today is the day" in the comments.